Fannie Mae ANSI update number 139. Page 47. Typical one-unit building site in a particular area based on the zoning, the highest and best use of the land, and the present land use is 2 acres in size. The mortgage will be eligible for purchase or securitization regardless of the percentage of the total appraised value of the property that the site represents, as long as the appraiser demonstrates through the use of comparable sales that the property is a typical residential property for that particular neighborhood. Because Fannie Mae does not purchase or securitize mortgages secured by agricultural type properties, undeveloped land, or land development type properties, the lender must review the appraisal report for properties that have sites larger than those typical for residential properties in the neighborhood. Special attention must be given to the appraiser's description of the neighborhood, zoning, the highest and best use determination, and the degree of comparability between the subject property and the comparable sales. If the subject property has a significantly larger site than the comparables used in the appraiser's analysis, the subject property may not be a typical residential property for the neighborhood. Trend of neighborhood property values, demand/supply, and marketing time. The appraiser must report the primary indicators of market condition for properties in the subject neighborhood as of the effective date of the appraisal by noting the information in the table below. Trend of property values, supply of properties in the subject neighborhood, marketing time for properties, increasing, stable, or declining, shortage, imbalance, or oversupply, under 3 months, 3 to 6 months, or over 6 months. The appraiser's analysis of a property must take into consideration all factors that affect value. Because Fannie Mae purchases mortgages in all markets, this is particularly important for neighborhoods that are experiencing significant fluctuations in property values, including submarkets for particular types of housing within the neighborhood. Therefore, lenders must confirm that the appraiser's analysis analyzes listings and contract sales as well as closed or settled sales, and uses the most recent and similar sales available as part of the sales comparison approach, with particular attention to sales or financing concessions in neighborhoods that are experiencing either declining property values, an oversupply of properties, or marketing times over 6 months. The appraiser must provide his or her conclusions for the reasons a neighborhood is experiencing declining property values, an oversupply of properties, or marketing times over 6 months. Page 48. When completing the one-unit housing trends portion of the neighborhood section of the appraisal report forms, the trends must be reflective of those properties deemed to be competitive to the property being appraised. If the neighborhood contains properties that are truly competitive, that is, market participants make no distinction between the properties, then all the properties within the neighborhood would be reflected in the one-unit housing trends section. However, when a segmented or bifurcated market is present, the one-unit housing trends portion must reflect those properties from the same segment of the market as the property being appraised. This ensures that the analysis being performed is based on competitive properties. For example, if the neighborhood contains a mix of property types not considered competitive by market participants, then a segmented or bifurcated market is present. Additionally, the conclusions reported in this portion of the appraisal will be supported by the analysis contained in the market conditions addendum to the appraisal report, Form 1004MC. The appraiser should also provide commentary on the other segments of neighborhood when segmentation is present. Market Conditions Addendum to the Appraisal Report, Form 1004MC. The lender must confirm that current market conditions are identified and analyzed in the valuation process as described in the appraisal report. Form 1004MC is required for all mortgage loans delivered to Fannie Mae with appraisals of 1 to 4 unit properties. It is intended to provide the lender with a clear and accurate understanding of the market trends and conditions prevalent in the subject neighborhood. The conclusions regarding trends that are obtained from the 1004MC form must be reported in the neighborhood section of the report form. In situations when there is not sufficient data to provide a meaningful analysis for the defined neighborhood, the form must be completed based on the information available, and an explanation must be provided. The lack of data may be an indication of the market conditions. If additional analysis of nearby areas that include competitive properties is performed, it must be discussed in the summary/conclusions section of the form. In any scenario, the neighborhood section of the appraisal report must include the appraiser's conclusions regarding the housing trends. For additional information concerning Form 1004MC, see B4-1 period 2-01, Appraisal Report Forms and Exhibits. Price range and predominant price. The appraiser must indicate the price range and predominant price of properties in the subject neighborhood. The price range must reflect high and low prevailing prices for residential Page 49. Properties that are comparable to the property being appraised. 1 unit properties, 2 to 4 unit properties, condo units, or co-op units, and in some cases for competing properties, 1-unit properties, when the property being appraised is a 2 to 4 unit property, or a condo unit, or condo units when the property being appraised is a co-op unit. Isolated high and low extremes should be excluded from the range, which means that the predominant price will be that which is the most common or most frequently found in the neighborhood. The appraiser may state the predominant price as a single figure or as a range, if more appropriate. Over improvements. An over improvement is an improvement that is larger or costlier than what is typical for the neighborhood. For example, a 4,000 square foot home located in an area of homes where the typical home is 2,000 square feet may be considered an over improvement. Furthermore, a home with an in-ground pool in an area where pools are not typical may also be considered an over improvement. The appraiser must comment on over improvements and indicate their contributory value in the sales comparison approach adjustment grid. Improvements can represent an over improvement for the neighborhood, but still be within the neighborhood price range, such as a property with an in-ground swimming pool, a large addition, or an oversized garage in a market that does not demand these kinds of improvements. The fact that the property is an over improvement does not necessarily make the property ineligible. However, lenders must review appraisals on properties with over improvements that may not be acceptable to the typical purchaser to ensure that only the contributory value of the over improvement is reflected in the appraisal analysis. Age, range, and predominant age. The appraiser must indicate the age, range, and predominant age of properties in the subject neighborhood. The age range should reflect the oldest and newest ages for similar types of residential properties: 1-unit properties, 2 to 4 unit properties, condo units, or co-op units. And in some cases, for competing properties, 1-unit properties when the property being appraised is a 2 to 4 unit property or a condo unit, or condo units when the property being appraised is a co-op unit. However, isolated high and low extremes should be excluded from the range. The predominant age is the one that is the most common or most frequently found in the neighborhood. The appraiser may state the predominant age as a single figure or as a range when that is more appropriate. When the age of the subject property is significantly different than the predominant age range, the appraiser must explain why the age is outside the range and comment on the marketability of